You're listening to Digging Star Wars, the online journal of the films that inspired George Lucas to create the Star Wars saga. Hello, I'm your host Chris Mitch, and in this episode of Digging Star Wars, we're going to talk about sex. Okay, maybe not sex, but gender roles. But before we go there, let me introduce this episode's classic film, Fritz Lang's futuristic fantasy, Metropolis. Released in 1927, this silent film is one of the more accessible components of the German expressionist film movement. While the story is engaging and possesses many of the elements shared with fellow sci-fi films throughout the ages, such as towering, overpopulated cities and video phones, the value of Metropolis is in its visual mastery. Stark black and white composition and sets, in-camera trickery, and a dynamic cast make Metropolis simply a beautiful movie to behold. The connection between Star Wars and Metropolis starts right out of the gate. The first frame of film before the title card of Metropolis is a placard that starts off, quote, "This film is not of today or of the future. It tells of no place," end quote. While listed as a precautionary separation from any real-world political or religious movement, this placard clearly establishes Metropolis as a story of the past set in an unfamiliar place. This is strikingly similar to the intro to each Star Wars film, A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. After the introductory placard, the story of Metropolis unfolds. Here's how the Good Times home video cassette cover sums up the story. Set in the year 2000, there are two distinct class divisions in Metropolis. The labor force lives beneath the city in slums with slaves working 10-hour shifts, while the upper class resides in luxury above the ground. Presiding over this complex domain is Fredersen, the master of Metropolis. His son, Frieder, lives a naive and sheltered life until he meets Maria, the daughter of a worker. When Maria leads him into the grueling underground city, he discovers the masses who keep Metropolis functioning. Frieder abandons his life of luxury to join the oppressed workers in a revolt. Good Time synopsis ends there, but I need to add a few spoilers for the sake of our discussion. Maria is beautiful, wholesome, and good. She protects and educates workers and their children, sharing stories from the Bible with them in secret, as there is no freedom of worship in Metropolis. Within Metropolis dwells a mad scientist named Rotwang, who reports to Fredersen. Rotwang's attire is similar to Episode 3 Anakin Skywalker, complete with the one-gloved mechanical hand. And, like Anakin, Rotwang has built a robot, quote, "in the image of man," unquote. Although I must admit the robot from the get-go looks surprisingly female. When the Emperor/Tarkin-like Fredersen sees the workers listening to Maria's every word and practically worshipping her, he orders Rotwang to turn his robot into a Maria look-alike, so that the Maria robot will lead the workers to do evil things. Rotwang complies and transforms his man robot into a female robot that looks exactly like Maria. The Maria robot is a direct opposite of the real Maria. The robot performs erotic dances, inciting lust in the cultural elite. She then goes to the underworld and drives the workers to revolt, destroying the machine and, in the process, endangering their own children. In short, this is one bad robot. The biggest connection between Metropolis and the Star Wars saga is this golden robot. George Lucas specifically asked original Star Wars concept artist Ralph McQuarrie to model C-3PO after Rotwang's original robot design in Metropolis. The reason I chose Return of the Jedi as the Star Wars film to match to Metropolis is because Jedi is the one chapter in Star Wars that really champions C-3PO. Jedi is the first film in the Star Wars saga where we hear 3PO fluent in more than 6 million forms of communication throughout the film. 3PO is also given a primary role in Jabba's court, deceives a garrison of Imperial troops during the Battle of Endor, and, like Maria Metropolis, is elevated to godlike status by primitives. So, for a discussion, I'd like to dive a little deeper into 3PO's character and the connection to Maria. In a blog posting on my last episode, P. Congleton asked, "Why does everyone think C-3PO is gay?" I thought this was an interesting question, as 3PO's sexual orientation has been mocked for decades by fans, critics, and even the Simpsons television program that once referred to R2 and 3PO as, quote, "the gay robots from Star Wars," end quote. Even 3PO's ancestor, Rotwang's robot from Metropolis, has interesting sexual identities. When we first see the Metropolis robot, it is, quote, "made in the image of man," end quote. Then, upon Fredersen's orders, Rotwang turns the man robot into a female robot who will perform erotic dances and such. Big spoiler here, late in the film, the Maria robot is even burned at the stake like a witch, and the fire returns her to a metallic robot form. So, Maria is capable of performing multiple gender roles to a degree. I also think it's worth noting that the film Metropolis has been visually referred to in music videos from both Madonna and David Bowie, artists who have experimented and utilized numerous sexual identities in their work. But does 3PO possess any sexual identity? Does he represent a gay man? Considering how often it's referred to, I believe these are legitimate questions. In a completely unscientific way, I decided to challenge this. I asked a gay friend of mine to watch Return of the Jedi and offer an opinion on whether Goldenrod was indeed gay. It was a very funny and awkward conversation between the two of us. Here's his final verdict on 3PO's sexual orientation, and I quote, "So I watched Return of the Jedi for the 100th time, but with a gay eye this time. I have to say that I do not consider C-3PO a gay icon or even a stereotypical gay character. Here are my reasons. C-3PO is a robot, okay, droid. It has no gender. Granted, C-3PO would be considered male because his voice and lack of metal boobs, and is referred to by many as he, and I will do the same. But his voice is pitched high enough to be considered neutral. I see him more as a gold-plated Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, a nervous Nelly with anxiety issues. I can see how people would view that trait as being a sissy and therefore gay, but the reality is there are no sexual overtones to his character. He may be buddy-buddy with R2-D2, but who is to say that R2-D2 is male? There is no voice, no dressing in drag, or droid genitalia to give any clues." End quote. Normally, that would be good enough for me, but what my friend wrote next shocked me. And I continue to quote, "In fact, if any character in Return of the Jedi is gay, I would say Chewbacca. Oh, I just ruffled some nerd feathers somewhere in the world. Let's look at this character. When Han comes out of the carbonite, Chewie is right there stroking Han's head and comforting him. He's very protective of Han in all the movies. They argue like an old married couple, assuming gays can get married in a galaxy far, far away. Many gays would consider Chewie an uber bear or uber otter. On this planet, a gay guy is considered a bear if he is large and hairy. An otter is a skinny, hairy guy. Chewie is in a class all by himself. There you have it. C-3PO, not gay. Chewbacca, it's possible." End quote. So I ask you to thoughtfully post a blog entry on this issue. Does 3PO, or any other Star Wars character, represent the gay community in any way, good or bad? Keep in mind, while robots in the Star Wars films have been given no seemingly blatant sexual identity, the animated Clone Wars series has introduced female-shaped pleasure droids and additional machines with potential sexual identities. With that in mind, think, post, and accept my thanks for listening. Please look for our next episode on diggingstarwars.blogspot.com, where we compare and contrast Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, with the Bruce Lee cinematic gem, Enter the Dragon.
Digging Star Wars is produced by Mitch Media and has no connection to Lucasfilm Limited whatsoever. Copyrights for films, trademark characters, and related materials discussed in Digging Star Wars remain with their respective owners. For a list of references or source material, please send an email to diggingstarwars@gmail.com.